What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Gridiron segment here in House Call Sports. I'm Sammy Hot Takes, aka Sammy. That is Justin. That is Ricky. And we're here to go ahead and gonna discuss the Super Bowl that took place between the San Francisco 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of that, a quick word from Vivid Seats. Vivid Seats is the most trustworthy and easy to navigate ticketing website. They have reliable and rewarding tickets and a 100% buyer's rate guarantee, which means your transaction will be safe and secure. You will get full service, customer care, and compensated by any canceled events. And it's the only app around that's got a ticket rewards program. All that means is that the NBA season is still going on. I know NFL is over and a lot of people are heartbroken. What are you going to do for the next 7 months? Look, you got WWE events. That's a hot topic right now. You got the NBA. You got the MLB just around the corner. If you like tennis, maybe there's a tennis event around there. Grab your seats at Vivid Seats. They're guaranteed. Hit the link in the description and go sit vividly. Now, what are we here for? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to cut right to the chase. I know I am not one to speak because I get everything wrong. But one thing I'm not wrong on is the greatness of Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes did it again. He won his third Super Bowl MVP. He wins his third ring in general. Back to back. Again, the Kansas City Chiefs do it once again. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't think I need to repeat myself, but I'm going to anyway. We're witnessing the best QB to ever exist. And I now understand that the narratives for Tom Brady are there. The narratives for Peyton Manning are still alive. Joe Montana. The fact that we're even mentioning those names and Patrick Mahomes is only 28 years old is just a testament to his greatness. And he's not done. That's the craziest part about it, is that 7 seasons in, we're here talking about Patrick Mahomes next to Peyton Manning, next to Tom Brady, next to Joe Montana. And it's just his first 6-7 seasons of his career. I can only imagine 10 years from now what his accolades are going to look like. Now, are they going to be Tom Brady-esque? I don't think so. I don't think anybody can catch Tom Brady. Getting 8 rings seems absurd. But Patrick Mahomes is on pace. And the fact that you're on pace to catch the GOAT, I mean, I don't know what else you need to say. He's, in my opinion, is having the best start to a Super Bowl. The best start to an NFL career in NFL history. And you could argue the best start in pro sports history. All-time greatness we're seeing here from Patrick Mahomes. Enough of the glazing. I know what you're thinking. What did I just come into? Pause. What we're going to do is we're going to go to Justin. We're going to go to Ricky. And I know Ricky's pissed off because his divisional rival did it again. Went to the Super Bowl again. Now, the good thing is you guys can say, your Raiders can say, that you beat the champs at their house. Something that the Dolphins couldn't do. And that the Giants wish they could be in position they could be in. Look, man. Ricky, I want to hear your thoughts. What did you think about this game? Tell me the key moment in that game where you thought to yourself, yeah, Patrick Mahomes is going to do it again.
Oh, man, where to start? Gosh. Yeah, he did it again, man. And as a, lifelong Raider fan, to see him hoist a Lombardi trophy in our building and, celebrate in our locker room and all of that stuff, it just made it, it just stung a little bit more, But to be completely honest with you, as I was watching that game, specifically in the fourth quarter, is really when I was just sitting there thinking to myself, like, dude, I'm not even, like, I can't even be mad anymore. I can't even, like, and I'm not saying I was rooting for the guy, but I can't even, like, I don't know. I just, like, ran out of, like, emotion of, like, I can't hate this dude. Like, I mean, I can't hate him, and I can hate the uniform that he's wearing and all that stuff, but there is definitely a respect factor that factored into me, and it really it hit me pretty hard during that Super Bowl, especially when they had two. I know we're skipping to the weigh-in, and I know we're going to talk about a lot of stuff, but that moment for me was really just like when that epitome moment, I should say, is when they were down, 3 points with 1:53 to go. You just knew it. You just knew, like, man, the 49ers had a chance. They had many chances in the game. I know we're going to talk about it. They had so many chances, but as somebody who watches the Chiefs pretty often because they're always on national TV, and then, just naturally the Raiders play them twice a year, so I watch them more and, I pay attention to them. You just know when you let these guys hang around, when you let them be down, 3 points, 4 points, 7 points, 10 points, when you're kind of in that range, no lead is safe versus those guys. Right. But that moment where I just had the ultimate respect for the dude was not only did he give you the drive that you needed to go, like, he didn't just deliver the drive that you needed. He delivered it twice. He delivered it twice, man. When they were down 3 with 1:53 to go, it's not like you were tied and, hey, worst case, if we don't score here, we got another chance at overtime. No, it's you're down 3. There's a difference there. You guys follow me? There's a difference when you're down versus when you're tied. When you have to absolutely have it, and guess what? He got it. He got it, and hats off to Harrison Butker because, God, that's tip the cap to that guy because that guy's been incredibly clutch. We're talking about greatest of all time. He might be one of the greatest field goal kickers in the Super Bowl all time with Vinatieri.
Absolutely.
Coincidentally, another Patriot that these two guys are compared to, right? But anyway, the point is that, like, when he absolutely had to have it, 3rd and 1, I'm taking the ball. He kept the ball and he scrambled around in on a design run, or if it was an option, whatever it was, but he decided to keep the ball. In overtime, you're down 3 again. And in an absolutely have to deliver situation, the guy delivered and said, hey, you know what? I'm not giving you guys this ball back. You're not going to have a 3rd possession in this overtime. I'm just going to go ahead and end it here and not settle for a field goal. We're going all the way down the field and we're scoring on you guys. So, God, man. So to answer your question, Sammy, that moment where I knew, where it was just like, of course, the obvious answer is that minute 53. And again, we're going to talk about the whole game, but really for me, and it was really that 3rd quarter where I just kind of knew like they're not pulling away. They're not pulling away. The Niners got chances here, but they're not extending the lead. And you just kind of have that feeling of these dudes are going to find out. And that's what Andy Reid does. That's what Patrick Mahomes does. That's what Travis Kelce does. 1 catch in the first half. And he finished with 9 catches for over 90 yards, I believe.
Yep.
So these guys are big game players, and goddamn, did they show up? Did they freaking show up, man?
Yeah, and that's been the story of the entire dynasty, really, right? Like, man, and this is now a dynasty, and it's been headlined by that 3-headed goat in Mahomes, in Travis Kelce, and in Andy Reid. Justin, I'm curious to see what you think about what transpired this past Sunday. A lot of, defensive playmaking going on in that game. I want you to give who you thought was the most impactful player on both teams.
On both teams?
Yeah. It could be on the defensive side. On the defensive side of the ball, who did you think was the most impactful? You could go with one team with the Chiefs. I mean, they are the Super Bowl winners.
Honestly, I can't even do one person on the Chiefs because as a whole on that defense, I said it when we talked about it last time. That defensive backfield that the Chiefs have do not get the credit that they deserve. Between Trent McDuffie and L'Jarius Sneed, shut down the receiving core. Brandon Ayuk, an all-pro receiver, getting only 3 catches in the Super Bowl. Kittle, one of the top tight ends in the league. Where was he at the entire time? Nada. So honestly, I have to give it to pretty much all that whole DB room in Kansas City. On the 49ers side, I have to give it to the linebacking core. I kid you not, if it wasn't for that injury to Dre Greenlaw, it'd be a lot closer. And I will piggyback off the question that you asked Ricky before, but I'm just going to finish your question. That linebacker room is real.
Right.
We did get some Nick Bosa action because everybody keeps saying on the announcers that it was Joey Bosa. I'm like, why do y'all keep confusing the two? One actually plays, one is still injured. But anyways, there was a little bit of action on the defensive line between Armstead and Bosa, but it was really the linebackers flying around, limiting the runs, making sure that those screen passes didn't go as far as they could have. But I'm going to piggyback into Ricky's question that he answered, which was, what was the moment that you knew that the Chiefs were going to get this? It was two. I had two. One gave me suspicion, one gave me confirmation. Suspicion, Greenlaw's injury. The second this man got injured just running onto the field, already gave me pause like, yep, this is going to be some bullshit. And then the confirmation was Moody missing that extra point. Because in that last possession with Patrick Mahomes, that 1 point is the difference between needing to kick a field goal to go into overtime and needing a touchdown to win the game.
Unbelievable.
And I will trust, as much as I may not like the 49ers, I will trust them to defend the end zone more than I would trust them to not have the Chiefs give up a field goal. And that's just that. Those two moments right there spelled doom for San Francisco. And now it's caused a lot more issues, which we will definitely talk about later on in the show.
Yeah, and I'll tell you the moment I thought. I mean, look, Trent McDuffie, Steve Spagnuolo is one of the best defensive coordinators of all time, and it's because he really did give Brock Purdy multiple different looks. He gave him something that Brock Purdy struggled with. Brock Purdy struggled with this against, ironically, against the Cleveland Browns. And Steve Spagnuolo, for whatever reason, was the only defensive coordinator to implement it with success. They played a lot of man. They played a lot of cover zero. They brought the house a lot of times. And there was one play where they decided to get their all-pro corner, Trent McDuffie, who was involved in the Tyreek Hill trade. And you got the worth of that trade in that one play. You're blitzing your all-pro corner, and he goes with such speed. Brock Purdy tries to get it out in time, and maybe the pass is accurate, but we will never know because Trent McDuffie batted that stuff to the ground. And I think at that point, when you're giving Patrick Mahomes the ball with 1:53 left, I don't care what kind of defense you're facing. This is a different beast. This is a different beast of Patrick Mahomes. I mean, it's Brady-esque. It's Jordan-esque. Whatever GOAT you can think of, esque. Like, it's unbelievable how it's 6 seasons in, and it's like you don't want to deal with that kind of stuff. You really don't. And I guess that brings me to the next question and our next topic of discussion. Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. I mean, the dynasty, they say, is just beginning. I thought it was just confirmation that this was a dynasty, but they're saying it's just beginning. I want you guys to give me an idea of where you think Andy Reid is going to end his career. Is it going to be with the Belichick, the Bill Walshes of the world? Where would you rank Andy Reid's career? And I'll go to you, Justin, to start with that.
Honestly, and this is assuming one thing. Right now, I have Andy Reid as a top 5 coach with the way he's handled both the Chiefs and even the Eagles before that. If he can get that 3P, I will give him top 3. And that's as high as he's going to go, only because I can see him retiring after that. Because what else Andy Reid has to play for? What else does he have to coach for? He's already got his rings. He's about to chase after history, which I have a lot of ideas that a lot of people in Kansas City would end up either retiring or leaving if and when they end up getting that 3P, because it's a strong possibility that they're going to hit that. So where do I see Andy Reid? Probably at highest, number 3 on the list, because I still have Bill Walsh and I still have Belichick as the top 2.
Right, and you're absolutely right to assume that, because Andy Reid is, on top of being one of the greatest offensive minds ever, I mean, he's had success even before Patrick Mahomes. So all he needed was his quarterback that he wanted in his image. And once he got it, it was over. I mean, he had been to Super Bowls. He had been to conference championship games. He just never seemed to get over the hump. It took him 15 years to get over that hump. And eventually he did. But it wouldn't have happened without Patrick Mahomes. Now, Ricky, I'm curious to hear what you think about Andy Reid, because I know, look, you being a Raiders fan, I love hearing your opinion on the Chiefs, because it makes me think to myself, I'm so glad that I don't have to deal with the boogeyman and that man Patrick Mahomes anymore. It reminds me of when I had to deal with Tom Brady. But I'm curious to hear what you think about Andy Reid and where you think his career is going to end up with the all-time greats.
You know, oddly enough, I actually don't have anything but great things to say about Andy Reid.
That's not what we wanted to hear.
I know. You know, again, oddly enough, yeah, I've actually always been a fan of Andy Reid. You know, going back to his days in Philly, you know, with the McNabbs of the world, and you know, Brian Westbrook and T.O. for a stint, you know, and Todd Pinkston and Brian Dawkins and that whole crew, you know. But I think the nod, I think you guys hit it pretty much right on the head, and I really love what Justin said, because the truth is like, you know, he's not a spring chicken, you know, he's not a, you know, he's, you know, I don't want to, you know, he's not like a Pete Carroll who's running up and down the field and, you know, all that kind of stuff, you know, that kind of energy and all that, and you know, Big Red, everybody loves the guy, but I mean, at the same time, you know, he is an older gentleman. I don't know his exact age. I want to say he's pushing, you know, probably late 60s at this point. You know, maybe you guys could fact check me on that. But, you know,
I'll definitely fact check right now. But
regardless, see, the man's in his, there you go, mid 60s. So, right. I mean, I think Justin, I think you hit it perfectly. You know, if they do complete that three-peat and do something that literally has never been done in the NFL, and that benchmark of a three-peat in American sports, I mean, that is the benchmark. If I'm not mistaken, the last franchise to three-peat in American sports is the Lakers of the early 2000s with Shaq and Kobe. So, I mean, that it just hasn't been done. You know what I'm saying? So, for them to, if they were to complete it, okay, as much as that, like, God, just freaking shoot me, you know, to see that happen in my division, I do think he walks away, you know, and I think he probably ends up being number 2. And people would argue, you know, the big argument would be, you know, the Belichick. The whole reason, you know, the whole argument, the whole knock on Belichick right now is he didn't have success before Tom Brady. And Andy Reid did, you know, before Patrick Mahomes. And he didn't have the Super Bowl success, but he had success nonetheless at a pretty high level. So I think he would be right up there at 2, to be completely honest with you. If they completed the three-peat, you know, and he calls it quits at four Super Bowls and God knows how many conference championship games and division titles and all that stuff. But the caveat to that is, man, it's hard to walk away from a Patrick Mahomes, you know, at that age. He would be, what, 29, you know, to walk away from that. That's the caveat. Agree. You know, if you're playing devil's advocate, you know, why would you want to walk away other than, you know, at this point, just, you know, health and, you know, age, you know what I'm saying? But you know, they don't seem satisfied. This is kind of the crazy thing, man. You know, you hear them talking on the podium and, you know, Travis Kelce's already talking about next year, you know, and like you said, Sammy, they're saying what? Oh, they asked.
They're just getting started.
Exactly. They're saying like they're just getting started, and it's, oh God, man. It's just,
I think everybody that's an NFL team is thinking to themselves, damn, we thought we escaped it. And we didn't because it was in New England, it was in the Northeast, and now it's in Kansas City. And unfortunately, we might have to deal with it. You want to add one more thing, Ricky?
Yeah, one more thing. And by the way, I'm just not going to crown them. They're not the three-peat. You know, I'm not going to. They're a dynasty. That's confirmed. That's out. That's done with. They are a dynasty. But to go for the three-peat, man, I mean, I'm just not going to crown them, you know, and say today, right now, that they're going to win a third Super Bowl, you know, back to back to back, because they got a lot of guys. You know, Chris Jones, I believe only signed for.
He signed for 1 year.
1 year, right?
So
yeah.
he's going to be up there.
Chris Jones is going to want to get paid Aaron Donald money. He's going to want quarterback money. You know, these guys, you know, they have other guys. I was reading some stuff on L'Jarius Sneed, and they're going to need to work something out, and they're going to have that like all-in kind of mindset to complete that. But to you know, to go back to the question, the original question, if they're able to pull it off, I think Andy Reid catapults himself above the Walshes and the Shulas, and I think he catapults himself right there, neck and neck with Bill. And then your argument would just be, but Andy had more success, you know, without his quarterback, you know, that won him all the titles.
Yeah, that's definitely the knock that Bill Belichick is going to get throughout his, you know, when he does eventually retire, and he's going to get, of course, his flowers. But when Andy Reid retires, man, look, if he completes his three-peat, in my opinion, it's hard to argue that he isn't the greatest coach, the NFL coach ever. I mean, quite simply because no one's ever done it. And the fact that you do something that no one's ever done, it's unprecedented. And if it's never been done and you break that mold, you should be at the top of the mountain to some. Don Shula, to a lot of people, hey, you might think he's the greatest head coach ever, right? So, now, with that being said, do I think that's the case? I think Bill Belichick is the greatest head coach ever. I think he's the greatest defensive mind ever. I think you got to put Andy Reid up there as the greatest offensive mind ever, because quite simply, there has never been a mind as innovative as his. Now, I want to give Andy Reid more flowers, because I just think that Patrick Mahomes, as great as he is, I think Patrick Mahomes gets a lot of the credit, and for good reason, but I'd never hear about Andy Reid. And I think Andy Reid, I understand he didn't have the Super Bowl success before Patrick Mahomes, but he had success. And many coaches wish that they'd have the success that Andy Reid had before he got Kansas City those 3 Super Bowls. So now, of course, every coach wants to win the Super Bowl, but a lot of coaches want to get to the Super Bowl. So I think Andy Reid 1000% deserves his flowers. But let's talk about the coach on the other side that had a lot of animosity thrown towards his way, that involved both his decisions in the fourth quarter and the second half of the game, and his decision in OT to receive the kick first. And I have the quote right here because I came prepared, and I knew that Shanahan was going to say some bull crap after the game. We all knew it. And I didn't think, what I thought was it wasn't going to get any worse. It wasn't going to get any worse, guys, than the Niners not knowing the rules. But on top of that, here's Shanahan's way of thinking and why he believed receiving the ball would have worked out in his favor. Quote, "We wanted the ball third. If both teams matched and scored, we wanted to be the ones who had the chance to go win." Now, I have my 2 cents on this situation, but I'm not going to go to me yet because, quite frankly, I'm a little bit intense right now, and I don't want to, spoil my energy until it's well needed. So with that being said, I'm going to go to one of my distinguished gentlemen to the bottom, and to my left, my right, you guys know what it is. I'll go to Ricky here. What did you think of this absolutely questionable decision in OT, and what do you think of how Shanahan coached the game yesterday?
If I could back it up, just answer, I guess, the second part of your question first, and then go into the overtime, only because of how the game played out.
Of course.
For me, Kyle Shanahan really started to let this game slip away right out the gates in the second half. Okay, when Patrick Mahomes gets the ball first, the Chiefs get the ball first, and what does Patrick Mahomes do? He airmails a throw to Travis Kelce. The 49ers come down with an interception on their own end of the field. Okay, talk about all the freaking momentum shifting into your favor. Because if there's one guy who does not turn the ball over, it's that guy. If you would have asked me, hey, who do you think's going to throw a pick in this game, Brock Purdy or Patrick Mahomes? We all would have said what?
Brock Purdy, 1,000%.
So that sequence, I want to really quickly go through their first 3 possessions in the third quarter. Right after the interception, 1st and 10, Brock Purdy incomplete. Brock Purdy pass incomplete. And then there's a false start penalty. So 2nd and 15, Brock Purdy pass incomplete, short left to Deebo Samuel. 3rd and 15, Brock Purdy scrambles for 4 yards and then a punt. So you come out the gates 3 straight pass plays. After what? After you have the momentum. So you have that on your side. You're on your own end of the field, and then you get out of field goal range because of the false start penalty. But where is McCaffrey? And I know they were doing a great job on him, but to come out and go 3 straight pass plays, and then they get the ball back, they force another punt, and then it's another Brock Purdy short pass left for -8 yards. 2nd and 18, Brock Purdy short pass left to Christian McCaffrey for 7 yards. 3rd and 11, Brock Purdy incomplete pass to George Kittle. So just 6 straight pass plays right out the gate, and you like Justin says right there, 28-3 sequel. What was the knock on that 28-3? With Kyle Shanahan's play calling was they abandoned the run game, and I get it. Like if you look at the box score, and McCaffrey did have 22 carries. Okay, but I think it's just the times of those carries. When you have that momentum, you got the ball. And you come on, you throw 6 straight pass plays right out the gate. What you're doing, and then just to kind of throw the cherry on top, the next time that they got the ball, okay, they threw it 2 more times and only ran the ball once. So your first 9 plays on offense, you just completely get away from the offensive player of the year, and you put the ball in Brock Purdy's hands. And not that he was playing a bad game or anything like that, but you pretty much said, hey, Brock, go get this lead and separate this lead for us. But when you got a Christian McCaffrey there, why not go to that? Why not go to that? What got you to the dance? What is the engine to that offense? Go to Christian McCaffrey, man, and separate yourself, because when I said it earlier, when you let this team just kind of hang around one possession, I really feel like they started to let that game slip away in that third quarter. And then after that third possession, the Chiefs get the ball back, they punt, and then we all know what happened on that punt.
Right.
And then boom, momentum shift. And all of a sudden, you look up at that scoreboard and you feel like, damn, we should have been up probably 17-3. We should have been up maybe 20-3 or more. Yeah. Right. So for me, the questionable play calling was really in that third quarter. It's just kind of when I feel like it was just a lost quarter for them, if anything. But to fast forward, your question was about the.
Well, yeah, my original question was about OT. That was kind of the first part, because that's the part I really wanted to get into because of his quote. But I love the points that you're making. I think, a lot of people have been defending Shanahan and how great of a head coach that he's been. And I feel like, no, we got to call him out on stuff like this, where you said it yourself, 1 run play in 3 straight possessions where you're just passing. That's unacceptable. And now I guess your thoughts on the OT decision to receive.
Look, to give him the little benefit of the doubt, this was the first time in the postseason that the overtime rule had changed. So this was the very first time. So there's kind of, I know he said, oh, we looked at the analytics, but like, what analytics did you look at? If there was like, this has never been proved. Like, there's no data to go off of, if I get the ball first, then the percentages is this and that. I think really the biggest part was just the part that just irritated the hell out of me. And I don't even know why they admitted to this publicly, especially after the game. Excuse me. Is that, Kyle Juszczyk didn't even know the rules. Didn't even know the rules changed. Eric Armstead, said, I guess if we score, the game's not over. Like, how do you not know that when the NFL gives you 2 weeks to prepare? They give you 2 weeks. You got 14 days, right, to leave no stone unturned. And coincidentally, this is the guy who was in the only other Super Bowl that went to overtime. I know the rules hadn't changed yet, but I mean, coincidentally, hey, I've been in overtime. Maybe I should talk to my team and kind of fill everybody in on what the game plan is with the overtime. So I think that really bugged me. And I feel like that really was the difference that's just the difference, man. That little tiny detail in a Kyle Shanahan and an Andy Reid, because Chris Jones talked about it, that they reviewed and went over all of those rules. Hey, every single week, not just the Super Bowl, every single week of the playoffs, every step of the way, they talked about that. They had overtime meetings. They were prepared for any and every situation possible that these guys are going to be in. So I think, man, so again, there's no data to go off of the decision to take the ball or to kick the ball off. But regardless, the Chiefs kind of confirmed to you, like, hey, like, yeah, that was your move, but we would have checkmated you anyway. You were never going to get the ball back. You were never going to get a third possession.
Chris Jones confirmed it. Yep.
Because Chris Jones said, and even Patrick Mahomes said, when he was interviewing at freaking Disneyland, he said what? He said, hey, if they would have scored a touchdown and we would have answered, we would have gone for 2. So they would have never got a third possession in the first place. So they honestly, they checkmated Kyle Shanahan from the freaking very beginning. He played right into their hand when he said, what? We want the ball. And we all saw what happened. They made him pay. They made him pay, and they cost themselves a Super Bowl.
Yeah, one thing I'm never going to do is give Patrick Mahomes the ball second and let us decide how many points that he has to put up. If anything, I'm giving it to Patrick Mahomes. Hey, put up your little points, whatever you're doing, and then we're going to match you, or we're going to surpass you. At this point, you should know who you're dealing with. Kyle Shanahan has played this team twice. The way they play is that they play to win. Every team should play like that, but this team is different because this team has won it. And you should know by now that Patrick Mahomes is a different kind of animal. And the odds of him getting stopped in situations like these, very, very different. So I'm going to go to you, Justin, before I kind of like hit the head of the nail. Because I see it, 28-3 the sequel. We all see it here. Everybody with eyes can see it. Kyle Shanahan did it again. He didn't run the ball. So, Justin, what do you think, man? What's going on with Shanahan? Why does he keep on making these same mistakes?
Oh, I'm gonna take you back to history. We're gonna go back to Super Bowl 49. That has nothing to do with Kyle Shanahan. It was the Patriots and the Seahawks. And we all remember that last play, right? Yes. When they should have ran the ball and they decided to pass the ball. Here's what happened. Or at least here's how I see it happening. Kyle Shanahan wanted to be cute. Kyle Shanahan wanted the glory that if they were going to win the Super Bowl, it was going to be because of his offensive scheme and off the arm of Brock Purdy. And that should not have been the case at all. Rick, you said it yourself about all the pass plays they did in that third quarter. That's all that was. You literally have an all-pro running back behind you that, if it wasn't for that fumble in the first quarter, had an absolutely perfect first half of football. He was torching that defense. And if I were them with that slim of a lead, no offense, 22 carries, but I'm going to run you to the ground. It's literally the Super Bowl. And McCaffrey would have been all for it. But they got away from that. They wanted to be cute. They wanted to play it off of Brock Purdy. Let's give him a chance to prove the doubters wrong and show that he's not a game manager. And what you did was essentially open up Brock Purdy to more criticism than what he should be getting. Because let's be honest, we should be praising the fact that a very last pick in the draft in his first 2 seasons has made an NFC Championship game, which I'm all honestly believe that they would have beat him if it wasn't for that injury, and has made a Super Bowl. That is progress. But now he's going to be dealing with a lot more scrutiny because Kyle Shanahan decided we're going to not run the ball, we're going to pass the ball. And getting off of that and going into the whole OT thing, this is the first year. Yes. Here's the thing. We have been talking, and I mean we as in the NFL, officiating crews, the Players Association, teams, everybody has been talking about this rule ever since that AFC Championship game between the Chiefs and the Bills that led to this change. So are you really going to tell me that throughout that whole time and the 2 weeks leading up to the Super Bowl, the players didn't know the rules? You're going to tell me that the coaching staff talked about it, but you didn't share it with the players? Y'all have position meetings and y'all have team meetings. You're really going to tell me this was never a discussion? Because if you're really going to tell me that that was the case, that is telling me that you really did not want this win. Because you should be prepared for everything. I do not play football. I do not play in the NFL. And reading the rules, I already knew that the best strategy, if you win the coin toss, defer it, kick it. Why? Because you want to see what that team is going to do. Are they going to put up 3? Are they going to put up 7? Are they going to put up nothing? That way you can respond and end the game yourself on your own terms. Yes, historically, overtime has always been you wanted the ball first. Because if you scored the touchdown, game was over. And if you scored 3, they had a chance. But times change. There was an OT rule before that when if they kicked the field goal, the game was over. And that evolved. And guess what? Nobody complained about, oh, we didn't know the rules when that change happened. So this can't be an excuse now that y'all didn't know the rules. Y'all are professional players, professional coaches. Y'all get paid millions of dollars to do this. And you're really going to tell me that the one possibility that can happen, which is, hey, this game can't possibly go to overtime because we are 2 of the best teams in the NFL, and y'all didn't account for any kind of strategy for that? I don't believe that shit whatsoever.
Yeah, and it's easy to really decipher what to do on OT. There's no analytics behind it, but if you go to college and the way that they do OT, it's pretty much the exact same concept, except they start at the 25-yard line and are pretty much guaranteed 3 points. The difference being, well, you have to actually go down the field. And if you don't go down the field, you're cooked. So I don't understand why Shanahan thought to himself, well, we're going to get the ball third. Like, who wants to get the ball third in a situation like this? Why would you get... I understand giving rest to your defense. You got to understand something. Your defense was not stopping Patrick Mahomes anyway. So it's better to just see what you have to deal with and match it from there. So you game plan from there. And it's utterly ridiculous that Kyle Shanahan, who is as smart as he is, actually had this kind of situation. And make no mistake about it, this is a stain on the organization. It is. Because as an organization and as a team, how, Justin, you mentioned this, how in the world throughout the 2 years that this rule has been existing, the 2 weeks up to this Super Bowl, you didn't discuss the rule once? That's unbelievable. Either your players were not paying attention, which would be very, very uncharacteristic because these players are in the Super Bowl, for crying out loud. Or you simply did not inform them. And in my opinion, that is ridiculous. But even if you informed them, it wouldn't have excused the decision that you made. The decision that you made, which is getting the ball first and giving the ball to Patrick Mahomes second, basically saying, we're going to shoot first, and you miss it. And now you're asking Patrick Mahomes to shoot it. He's never missing. And he hasn't missed for a very long time. Now, there was another QB at the other side in San Francisco who faced a lot of scrutiny coming into this game. Scrutiny that I feel like he didn't deserve, but scrutiny nonetheless. Mr. Irrelevant Brock Purdy seemed to have shut up the haters for a little bit until the Super Bowl came and the haters came back. Many calling him a game manager, many saying that he's not that good, many saying that he's carried by his team. Regardless of what you may think about Brock Purdy, the fact of the matter is this. He was Mr. Irrelevant, and he made it to a Super Bowl and an NFC Championship game his first 2 years. And that, in and of itself, should be celebrated. But this has everything to do with the fact of one thing. The NFL fans around the world, there is a bias. There is a bias against QBs like Brock Purdy, bias against QBs like Kirk Cousins, bias against QBs like Tua Tagovailoa. And the reason for that bias is ironically the man Brock Purdy had to go and dethrone. Patrick Mahomes changed everything, ladies and gentlemen. He really did. And I hate to toot this horn once again, but Patrick Mahomes changed the idea of every single general manager, every single owner on what they want in a QB. It doesn't matter if you can read the field that well. It doesn't matter if you can jump. It doesn't matter if you can throw with anticipation. It doesn't matter if you play the smart way. At the end of the day, they want to see what kind of throws you make. They want to see what kind of ability and talent that you have. And ironically, this trend has been happening for years now. Think about when people think top QBs in the league. Who do they mention? They mention Josh Allen. They mention Justin Herbert. They mention quarterbacks with elite talent. But you'll never hear names like Brock Purdy up there. You probably won't hear names like Dak Prescott. You probably won't hear names like Kirk Cousins. And you're probably right when talking about those QBs compared to those QBs. You're probably right. But the discourse on both of them is very different. The criticism on one side is very different from the criticism on the other side. Now, I want to keep this about Brock Purdy because Brock Purdy played well. Let's not make any mistake about it. Brock Purdy played very well in this game. With that being said, did Brock Purdy prove himself? That's the question. And in my opinion, if you go to the NFC Championship game and the Super Bowl in your first 2 years, it's going to take a lot to say that you suck. It's going to take a lot to say that you're not that guy. Because the fact that you can get to the dance and take a team to overtime and have one good extra point, one muffed punt, one coaching decision away from winning it all, I think Brock Purdy proved that he is the franchise quarterback for the Niners. But will the rest of the league think that? Will the rest of the NFL think that? I don't think so. And it's not Brock Purdy's fault. The fact of the matter is this. Brock Purdy's going to have to do some insane stuff in order to prove him wrong. And by insane, I mean go back to the Super Bowl and win it. But the reality is, the odds of that happening are now slimmer than ever because you got Patrick Mahomes coming back. Joe Burrow is coming back. Justin Herbert now has a head coach that's competent. You know Josh Allen's going to be there. And then on the other side, Dallas, you know they're going to come back with a vengeance. The Detroit Lions, the Philadelphia Eagles. I feel like the Niners had a lot of... If the Niners are going to win the Super Bowl, it was going to be this year. And Brock Purdy was going to win it all. But he didn't. And now the road back is going to be as hard as ever. So did Brock Purdy prove himself? To me, he did. but I want to know what you guys think. I'm going to go to you, Ricky. Actually, no, I'll go to Justin here first because, Justin, you told me at the beginning of the show that you weren't very sure, and I want a definitive answer now. Actually, you gave me a definitive answer, but I'm going to hold the suspense. Did Brock Purdy prove himself here in the Super Bowl this past Sunday?
I said it even a couple of minutes ago. Do I think he proved himself? Yes. I think he proved himself to be a franchise quarterback for the 49ers. And I think he is somebody that can lead an offense deep into a playoff run and has proven to lead them into a Super Bowl. Do I think that he proved himself to everybody else? No. And why do I think that? Honestly, because there is this thing, there is a bias against quarterbacks. I will agree with you on that. But I have a different bias. There is this thing with quarterbacks that unless you can start immediately and you are a high draft pick, you are nobody. You just named a bunch of quarterbacks. Kirk Cousins, Brock Purdy. Guess what? Not high draft picks. Russell Wilson did not get his respect until he won that Super Bowl either. And a lot more after that. Let's look at some of the quarterbacks who actually made it into the playoffs. I'm looking at Dak. I'm looking at Mahomes. I'm looking at Purdy. I'm looking at Lamar. And I'm looking at a few others. You know what's the one thing they have in common that NFL fans and pundits just don't want to see happen anymore? They backed up a quarterback for at least half a year, if not a full year. They learned behind other quarterbacks. And they played a lot better because of it. And we could keep going down the list of quarterbacks who have done it. Herbert, I feel like if he had a full year behind Tyrod instead of just a couple of games, would be much better quarterback at this rate. And I could say that about a lot of other ones. There is this thing that for quarterbacks, it's sink or swim. And unfortunately, because of the season CJ Stroud had as a rookie, it's going to continue.
It's going to get worse.
I'm a big believer in the quarterback position. Quarterbacks need to take their rookie year off and learn behind a veteran. Because there are so many aspects to an offense and so many aspects to the game itself that a quarterback has to retain. And unfortunately, you can't just throw a quarterback onto the field and hope for the best that things work. Because guess what? Then you have the situation that's going on in Carolina right now. And unfortunately, it does not work. You can say what you want. Brock Purdy learned behind Jimmy Garoppolo, and Patrick Mahomes learned behind Alex Smith. And there are much better quarterbacks because of that. Because I bet you damn well if you just threw them in as a rookie, they would not have the seasons they have, like the careers they have so far. So that's the bias I think about when it comes to quarterbacks. But did Brock Purdy prove himself? To me, yes. To the pundits, unfortunately not.
And that's a shame, really, because Brock Purdy really did deserve, in my opinion, he of all of them deserved to win that game. He didn't make a mistake in that game, in my opinion. I felt like maybe he could have done things better, but in that game, every single mistake was made by everybody else, and it's very, very ironic, man. Ayuk and Deebo Samuel couldn't provide separation. Kyle Shanahan wasn't dialing up the correct plays. The muffed punt, the fumble, even Christian McCaffrey, who was playing well throughout the game in both sides, both running the ball, football, and in the passing game. Even Christian McCaffrey fumbled the ball. So I think Brock Purdy, he proved himself, and it's unfortunate that, he had to lose this game, and some of his critics are still going to be critiquing. But Ricky, I'm going to go to you. Did Brock Purdy prove himself in Sunday's game?
Did Brock Purdy prove himself? To me, he proved himself that he is a top 8 to 10, maybe 7 to 10 quarterback range in the NFL. I think he's proved himself enough to remove that, but he's Mr. Irrelevant. He was the 262nd pick in the draft. Like, I don't think that stuff matters anymore, because of what he's proved. To do what he has done in just a really short period of time, and really just kind of hit the ground running the second he came into the game again, with the 49ers. So did he prove himself? I think Justin was right. Not to everybody, and it's kind of unfair. The guy had to win the Super Bowl to prove that he belongs, that he belongs in the NFL. Now, here's the thing. Again, to me, he's a 7 to 10 quarterback range. I don't like all the 49er fans, they think he's Montana. They think he's a top 5 elite quarterback because he had a nice statistical year. He's that stigma that like KD has about, was he the bus driver in Golden State? Right. I think that's kind of how people are looking at it here. I don't think Brock Purdy is being driven around in the bus, for the Niners, but I also don't think he is driving the bus. I think he's somewhere kind of right there in those front few seats of the bus, of that 49er organization. But did he prove himself? To me, I mean, in the first half of that game, honestly, he looked like the better quarterback, as weird as that sounds, right? In the first half of that game, it's just unfortunate he had to play, Patrick Mahomes on the other side of the field. He was stepping up in the pocket. He was moving around when he needed to. But, the Chiefs just did what they had to do, pressure him, make him a little bit uncomfortable. But I don't think the moment was too big for him. It didn't look like he was shaken up or rattled to be in that moment. So to me, he's gotten past that stigma of, he's the last pick in the draft, because, with Tom Brady, pick, what was he, 199, right? Or sixth rounder, like eventually we forgot about that stuff. We forgot about that, and we didn't hold that to him anymore. He's good for being a sixth rounder. Brock Purdy, no, he's not good for being Mr. Relevant. He's a good football player. He's a good quarterback for that specific team. He is perfect for the San Francisco 49ers. And that's what you want as an organization. You want to find the guy who is perfect for you and what works for you. And it works for him. It's just, my light went out. It's just unfortunate he had to win this Super Bowl to take that stigma completely off of the guy. If we look at it, history is not really on his side to win a Super Bowl, because the last 18 starting quarterbacks to start and lose your Super Bowl debut have not been back. Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, Jimmy Garoppolo, Jared Goff, Matt Ryan, Cam Newton, Colin Kaepernick. Like, history is not on his side, and eventually at some point he's got to get paid as well. I mean, the guy's making $800,000 a year.
I'll take that money.
I know we all would, but I mean, for a starting NFL quarterback,
absolutely, I agree. Yep.
A Super Bowl quarterback, any NFC Championship level quarterback. I mean, I guess that's I don't know. Did he now as I'm saying this, did he like blow me out the water completely in the game? No, he didn't. No, he didn't either. Because when they did need it most, I mean, he was only able to come up with field goals, and we all know that that's just not good enough versus that team. And it's a little bit unfair, but I have major respect for Brock. There's probably, maybe I can only rattle off maybe 7 quarterbacks right off the top of my head that I would definitively take over him at this point.
Right, and that leads me to end the episode here. We are talking about Brock Purdy. I want to quickly shout out the Pick a Side podcast for giving me this idea, and I would imagine a lot of people have done this idea. Brock Purdy is one of those QBs that has a lot of scrutiny, but there are also other QBs that we compare to him. So I'm just going to play a quick Would You Rather with Brock Purdy. I'm going to name the QB, and you guys are going to tell me who you personally would rather have, Justin and Ricky. It's going to be completely off the dome. Do not be afraid to answer definitively. Let's get started. The first name up, Tua Tagovailoa. Would you rather Brock Purdy or Tua?
Brock.
I'd take Brock too. Next up, we're going to have Kirk Cousins.
Kirk?
Healthy Kirk, obviously we don't know what he's going to look like when he comes back. He's not a 26-year-old dude. Kirk's in his 30s.
Right, and it
doesn't
doesn't help that
Achilles.
Exactly, it doesn't help
if without the Achilles tear, I would probably say Kirk. But this is the reality that we live in. He did tear his Achilles, so I would probably take Brock.
Yeah, I'd take Brock too. I think Brock is one of those QBs. He's still young, and he does pretty much everything similar to Kirk, in my opinion. It's pretty much the similar weapons. He just has a better offensive coach, in my opinion, and a better running back, clearly. Next name up, Dak Prescott.
Jesus Christ, I am taking Brock because, unfortunately, with Dak, and I see him twice a year, he'll get you through the regular season, but he won't get you out of the wild card. At least Brock gets you to the dance.
Interesting. I would you agree, Ricky?
Yeah, I don't trust Brock. I mean, I'm sorry, excuse me. I don't trust Dak as far as I could throw him, and he's a big dude. I can't throw him.
Isn't that something that Dak has been in the league for as long as he has, and yet we are trusting Brock Purdy to lead us to playoff wins more? And this is not an indictment on Brock Purdy whatsoever, but I'm just saying that's just a testament that Dak Prescott, for as good as he is, in my opinion, he has underwhelmed more than he has overwhelmed. So, next name up.
Yeah, if I was a GM, I'd have both of them on my depth chart. I will start Dak the entire 17 weeks. Second we get to the playoffs, you're being benched.
My goodness,
that's how strong it is.
That's an insane amount of hate, and I respect it, let me tell you. All right, next name up, Jalen Hurts. This is probably going to be the last one.
I'm going Brock.
Ooh.
Jalen Hurts, I'm so sorry. He needs a specific type of offense in order to be successful in the league. And we've seen it this past season. What happens when he's not in that offense?
What about you, Ricky? Who would you rather have, Mr. Hurts or Mr. Brock Purdy?
Yeah, I would still take Jalen Hurts. They both have, Jalen's been to the playoffs 3 times now. He's been to the Super Bowl just like Brock has, and in the same time, Jalen was a second-year starter and got to the Super Bowl and had one of the best Super Bowl performances ever. If you guys remember that, okay, if you don't, look at his numbers and go look at the tape of Super Bowl 57 and Jalen Hurts. He was the best player on that field.
He was amazing.
And then his offensive coordinator left, and then look what happened to him.
I understand that, but I mean, we're still yet to see that with Brock. He hasn't.
I don't think Brock will ever experience that situation since Kyle Shanahan is the play caller.
Yeah, exactly.
But I know we got like maybe 2 minutes until we hit the hour mark. But that brings me to another topic I had in my head that I want to bring up to y'all. So let's say Kansas City hits that 3-peat, and Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, probably some members of that offensive line all retire. Do y'all think that Patrick Mahomes could retain that success he's been having with a whole new coaching regime?
Yes, I think he would 1,000%.
At this point, yes, because I mean, you get rid of Tyreek Hill, and that was supposed to be their death sentence, and they won the Super Bowl. The enemy moved on, and went to Washington, and that was supposed to be another death wish, the kiss of death to them, and I actually at this point I actually do believe it. Now at that same pace, that I don't know, but to think they would just go away completely because of of that retirement and whatnot, I don't think so. Not at this point. I think he would still maintain a very high level of play.
Right, and another thing is that Andy Reid is like you said it, Andy Reid's no spring chicken. But if he does stay a little while longer, like say he coaches till because it's entirely possible that he coaches till he's 70 years old. I think there's definitely a scenario where he does. In those 5 years, I'm not saying he can catch Brady in terms of like rings, but he definitely has a chance to statistically surpass some of the all-time great quarterbacks in that mark, in the pace that he's in. And mind you, the Kansas City Chiefs are working to get the weapons back. I don't think they're content with having this same team running it back. I think they want to improve on the offensive side of the ball in case some of these defensive pieces that were so important, like L'Jarius Sneed, like a Chris Jones, I think if those pieces move on, I don't think Brett Veach, the GM for the Kansas City Chiefs, is going to sit on his ass and just like not do anything about it. He's going to want to try to get some weapons to come in and support Mr. Patrick Mahomes. With that being said, we had a lot to talk about this day. And you know what? We want to thank all of you for watching. From Justin, from Ricky, I am Sammy Hot Takes. This has been the House Call Sports. This has been the Gridiron segment here on House Call Sports. That'll be it for us. Peace out.
I'm going to take the Packers to cover 7.5 points. Give me the Texans plus